How are melanoma clinical trials carried out, and what should a patient expect if they're going to go on a trial?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with essentially what we call eligibility criteria, a series of ins and outs. Do you meet these criteria? And are there any exclusion criteria that may limit your ability to join? So we call that altogether eligibility criteria. And then essentially a process called informed consenting, where the study team really takes time to explain, why is the study being done? Why do we think a patient might be the right fit for it? What are the alternatives to this clinical trial? What are all the study procedures, the amount of blood that's going to be taken, the side effects to the treatment that have been known and described in frequency? And then the patient can take that document home. That's a written document. It's a conversation as well. It doesn't just stop on a piece of paper. And they can sit with that and talk with their family and think it over. And then when they feel they have enough information, they can sign that informed consent. It's worth saying that a lot of patients will obviously sign it instantly on the spot, and they will feel comfortable based on their team's recommendation. But that is by no means a requirement. You should not feel rushed into signing a consent. And one of the maybe only fortunate things that came out of the pandemic, at least at my institution, is that these informed consents could now be done virtually or remotely. Whereas we really did have to have the patient drive into the clinic and sign an actual piece of paper, we've gotten a little more facile and nimble at using electronic signing documents and things like this. So the informed consent is the documentation that somebody has discussed this clinical trial and I'm aware of the side effects and what might happen. At that point, there is also an insurance processing step. So you do need to, make sure that the insurance is aware that this will be the treatment. And insurance companies will look at what they're responsible for covering on a clinical trial and what the clinical trial will pick up. If all is greenlit at that point, then a patient is enrolled on the study. And if the study has multiple treatment arms, that patient who's now really turned into a participant because they're voluntarily, participating in the study, they will be placed in a treatment arm, either randomly assigned or based on some predetermined assignment or biomarker.
What happens as you get further along on the trial depends a little bit on the design of the trial and the stage of the trial. Some trials are designed with a treatment for a limited time period, such as trials that Dr. Patel was talking about in the beginning, where it's adjuvant therapy or neoadjuvant therapy. And some trials, even for patients with metastatic disease, are for 12 weeks or a year or 2 years. And then if you're doing well, you get to the end point, you stop treatment, but you're still being monitored as part of the clinical trial, because many of the late stage trials focus on how long the experimental group lives compared to the standard of care group. If you have side effects on the trial, oftentimes that might mean that you have the dose reduced or you stop treatment. And for some trials, that's not a problem. We know that people who stop treatment after a period of time, if they have a side effect, appear to do as well as those that haven't had side effects but are continuing on therapy. And sometimes people come to the end of the trial because it's not working and the disease is growing. And at that point, you will meet again with your oncologist and discuss what other options are available for people who have progressed on whatever therapy was being given in the trial. And sometimes there's another trial that's available, and sometimes there's still standard of care that you can go back to.